In March 2026, I was rejected from my dream job. This obviously crushed me because it was my dream job, but also because it had been the first job to give me an interview since September 2025. So I did what I normally do when I'm crushed. I went to my local bookstore and I bought a book. That book in question was The Books of Jacob by Olga Tokarczuk. And I, for my first ever YouTube video, would like to talk about it. Books of Jacob is about the life of Jacob Frank, a Polish Jew who started the Frankist movement. The Frankist movement itself is more of a cult than a movement that revered Jacob as the Messiah, and also had a lot of rituals that are detailed in the book that I don't think it would be appropriate to say on YouTube or on any other social media platform. The religion slash cult fuse elements of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism and required baptism into Catholicism of its adherents, most of whom were Jewish people who were looking for the Messiah and believed Jacob Frank was the Messiah. Now here's the real kicker of the book. It's 965 pages long. This is the longest book I own that is not a comic book compendium of the comic Calvin and Hobbes. It is 5 pages longer than the second longest book I own, and it is, according to Goodreads, the longest book I've ever read. This took me a month to finish. I started on March 27th and I finished on the last day of April. And in the meantime, I was able to finish 3 regular-sized books in the time it took me to finish this book. And that was including the fact that I was often not reading books at the same time as I was reading this book because I was so locked in on finishing this book. But still took me a month. Now, this book is told from the perspective of Yenta, who is a woman trapped between life and death. She is given a magic scroll while she is sick that she accidentally swallows and basically puts her in a comatose state where she lives between time and space, and she is able to view everything despite not physically being there. This is a very interesting way of narrating a book. Now, I am not versed very well in Judaism or Polish history. I am not Jewish, I am not Polish, I am just someone who likes to read. But I will say I did learn a lot from this book, assuming that everything in it is moderately factual. Yet at the same time, I'm also unsure of the amount of information that is in this book, because it kind of feels like an info dump about places, people, names, religions that I really don't know anything about, and I kind of wish there was more information given by the author besides what is just in the text. Furthermore, the nature of using a narrator who is unstuck in space and time, not to quote one of my favorite books, Slaughterhouse-Five, creates kind of a whirlwind of a story. In one section, you're reading about the letters a priest is writing to his pen pal. In another section, you're reading about Jacob Frank being in prison, and it jumps from these with little to no warning. That creates kind of, like I said, a whirlwind, and it's very hard to follow at times. Also, about midway through the book, because of the baptism of the Frankists, a bunch of the Jewish characters changed their names. This kind of got very confusing for me because of the fact that I wasn't sure who was being talked to. In some sections of the book, the author puts their Jewish original name slash their new Christian name, which is helpful, but she doesn't do that for all of the characters when they're mentioned. That creates a very complicated part of the book where I wasn't sure who was talking, who was in which scene, why should I care about this character because I can't remember their history because I don't know who they are. Now, I do think this was a good book, don't get me wrong, but I will say this is one of the rare books I have read where I thought it was well written and that it was good, but I would not recommend it to anybody. It's too long, it's too complicated, and it frankly is just very overwhelming. Like, comment, and subscribe for more content. I'd really like to keep running this YouTube channel. I'd love to talk about movies, more books, more music, but it really depends on how this video goes. Just remember, this is my first video ever, so be kind, and I hope you all have a great day. Thank you.